5, 4, 3, 2, 1,
right,
go
go
for
ahead.
it.
Hey, my name is Rick Boughton with the Tradesman's Hemp Company and the Green Goddess Foundation, and this is New Green Media. I'm sitting here with my good friend Bill Conde, and we want to talk about the beginning of the hemp movement as it fell into my lap when I first came here with my family about 30 years ago. So, Bill, you've been gone a long time, and I'm really happy to see you again.
Good. I'm glad to be here.
How have you been?
I've been pretty good, actually, all things considered. You know, I'm 76 years old now, and pretty healthy. Don't have any
Looking
major
good, Bill,
don't
really.
have any major problems. Well, I don't know about that, but you know, I forgot about how big the people are here, though. I've been down there in Belize where people are short. You know, yeah, it's quite a difference. So.
Well, it's good to see you back, Bill, and part of what we want to talk about today is I want to thank you for the work you did so many years ago. And when I came here as a young guy, there's a lot of people that already had a movement going and a political action that I not necessarily had ever seen anything like that. So I would like to tell you or ask you a little bit about your history, you know, in the 70s and as it led up to the late 80s, early 90s that got you inspired and got you going.
Well, I think the first time I smoked a joint, I got inspired. You know, it just lit something up, and I laughed and laughed. I ended up flipping over pancake 25 times before I cooked it, and I looked at myself and I started laughing, and I said, wow, why is this illegal? This is nice, I liked it. I said, I'm going to do this till the day I die. And so far that's held true, you know, and being high like that was such a radical change in my life and I could not understand why such a good thing could be illegal. And I think that has a lot to do with what set me off. And it was a girlfriend that did it. She walked in and she set these 3 yellow skinny cigarettes down on the coffee table, and I looked at him and I said, what is that? Is that what I think it is? She says, what do you think it is? I said, I don't know, is that those yellow cigarettes, man? Is that marijuana? And she says, what are you going to do? Yeah, it is. She says, you want some, or you want to call the cops on me? And I said, let me try it. And there you go.
I shared that change of perspective myself that day.
Yeah, it's quite amazing to all of a sudden see the world through a whole different set of eyes, you know.
Yeah, and you see how things don't always have to stay the same, and you don't need to be stuck in a bad mood. And that was my introduction,
for sure.
partially to plant medicines. So, how did you get involved in the legal aspects in the political movement regarding cannabis in the beginning?
Well, having about 15 or 20 police kick your door in and come in and rough up your house and tear the place apart, you know, and kick your dog and do all that sort of stuff. Yeah, that radicalized me. That changed me. Up until that point, I loved everybody and I thought everybody loved me. I was just, whoa, I was this nice flower child from San Francisco and everything was love and beautiful, and I'd never experienced anything like being taken over by the police in my own home. It was shocking. I mean, it really was shocking to have all those guns pointed at me, and it changed me, you know. I was playing guitar and I was singing and and all that stopped. All that stopped right then and there on that spot, and I started reading the law books. I said, what are they charging me with? And I looked at it and I read that thing, and I had a lawyer. His name was Robin Orahood. You can believe that. And we went to. I ended up going to court in Lane County there, and I looked through the law books and I'm starting reading these things, and I said, this is it, right here, diminished responsibility. I said, that's my defense. And he says, no, you can't do that. He said, that's for crazy people. I says, it says right here that I'm incapable of appreciating the criminality of my act. I can't appreciate the criminality of my act for using a substance that God provided to me that makes me feel like this. That's not a crime. It can't be a crime. And so when we presented that in court, Robin and I came into court one day, and we just got through smoking some nice Colombian that we'd just gotten. And when we walked into court, can't remember, Barnes, I think was the guy's name. Barnes, he was the district attorney there at the time. And we walked past him, and we're standing in court, right? And we're supposed to go to trial. And Barnes goes, he says, "What's that I smell?" He says, "It must be manna from heaven." And just the judge fired my lawyer. They kicked him out of the Bar Association at that time.
Wow.
When he told him what the defense was, he told the judge, he said, "Well, I don't believe it." He says, "But my client really believes this." And they threw him out of the Bar Association because he owed $27 in back payments or something like that. And then Judge Douglas Spencer was his name. He says, "Okay, you're out." He says, "You got 24 hours to get a new lawyer. I want you back here in 24 hours and you're going to trial." And then he signed an order that said that I couldn't speak of my religious beliefs in respect to the use of marijuana, and nor could I present any evidence that anybody else knew that I believed that way. So he actually signed an order ordering me not to speak of my religious beliefs during the course of the trial, and that no evidence would be allowed. And so, that pretty much set the stage for me going, none of this is right. And I haven't changed my mind yet. It's not right. Any laws against cannabis and all the restrictions that they're putting on it they're not valid. They really aren't valid. And for some reason or another, when I see something that's that obvious, I can't turn away from it. I never felt that I was doing anything very profound. I was only doing like most of us do feel about this. Why are you doing it? You want to become famous or rich? No. I just feel that it's the way it should be. Stand up for your rights. It's got to be a natural thing. And the hemp thing really happened at the country fair one year. Somebody just dosed the hell out of me, man. I must have ate about 30 drops of liquid LSD, and I come down off the environmental booth, and I got it's like that stuff you got that hammock made out of. I had a bunch of hemp fiber that I was carrying around with me, and all of a sudden I realized that I had this incredible attachment to this plant. It comes from maybe a past life or something like that, but it was really strong. And I'm in the lumber business at the time, and trees are fiber, hemp is fiber, of course. So David Sieber and I went, and we made those boards, and it works. So
You're describing personal responsibility and levels of awareness to understand the law, and you're describing being a businessman and looking out into the possibilities of different ways to make a living. And I'm curious how you decided to host an event on your land.
Well, I want to add one more thing to that about
Please.
the business,
Mm-hmm.
okay? And LSD. LSD is a wonderful, wonderful substance. I haven't done any in years and years and years because it's so frightening when you see yourself from a whole different perspective. But I was out in my warehouse looking at all these, what used to appear to me to be the most beautiful lumber that I had. All this tight, straight grain. And I was high on LSD again. And I'm looking at this lumber one night, and I'm just going, what in the hell am I doing? I'm taking a tree that's 700 years old or 1,000 years old and going to make a picnic table out of it for somebody to use for 25 or 30 or 40 years, whatever it is. this doesn't make any sense. And from that point on, I never bought any more old growth lumber. You know, I chose to not use anything except for second growth sustainable. I never even considered the word sustainable at the time, but that's what it ends up being. I only handled second growth lumber from that point on. I even wrote up a letter about it one time. I gave it to an environmental group. I can't remember their name now, but they gave it to Home Depot or Lowe's. I think it was Home Depot. And it was a business decision. I said, it's a business decision. It's one of the best business decisions I ever made, was to become conscious of what it was that I was dealing with and choose not. And I lost my biggest customer when I did this too. It was a Hawaiian people that I was selling all this beautiful old growth lumber to. And they always came around in December after harvest, you know, and I would load up these flat racks, just massive amounts of lumber, and get all this cash come in at the time when the business was flat. So it took a while, but you know, I put it in all my advertising and everything. And I says, as a matter of conscience, I choose not to deal with any products that come from the cutting of the ancient forests. And I actively encourage others to do the same. And then it became a business decision that really worked. I mean, people said, oh, wow, this guy's conscious. You know, we can buy this lumber. You know, other people, you know, people that didn't like me at first, they say, oh, you know, look at that SOB. He's selling all them old trees, you know. And I wasn't conscious of what I was doing. I was just trying to make a living, you know. But then when it hit, and it really became a great business decision. I really felt much better about what I was doing. But then hemp comes along, and wow, man, that makes even a lot more sense. How about cutting down something that only takes 3 months to grow, and building something that lasts 150 years out of something that took 3 months? I said, God, that makes a lot more sense. So, yeah. And then the whole thing with the trip at the country fair, I had them going crazy that year. I was out there. I mean, I was out there. I really had a great time. You know, I was walking around with all this hemp hanging off of me and stuff, and going, look at this stuff. I don't know.
Well, I'd like to pick up on that and make a couple points. I met you in this community in Eugene in the Northwest. Is an amazing community. The Oregon Country Fair is a community event that allowed many people to meet and be exposed to different ways of life and different ideas that is very unique to the country. And I myself was basically trying to live very simply off wild crafting and handcrafts, and that's how I ended up here. And I met you because you hosted events. And we knew about the ethics of the redwood business at first. So who's this guy running a lumber yard that's throwing events? And hemp was something I was aware of because of my immigrant grandparents, and I was aware of rope fiber, and I come from New England, and I know a lot about industrial processes, how you make a lot of things. They make just about everything in New England, and I was aware that industrialization was a problem. So making things small and simple and working with natural products was my focus. So I would like to segue up to, you know, what inspired you recently, the events that brought you back, and tell me something about the event you want to host again.
Well, to begin with, the way I had to leave was not comfortable. I had to leave under threat of my wife being deported back to Belize, my children being taken away from us and put into foster care, and another 5 felonies coming at me and wanting to lock me up for the rest of my life. That didn't appeal to me. Me going to jail forever, my wife and our children being separated, and whole family destroyed. I had a choice. You know, it wasn't comfortable. I lost everything. I mean, I got out with 1 container full of used goods that I'd been picking up along the way, and $25,000 in cash, which I'd scraped off the top of one of my events and put into a safety deposit box. And thank God I did that, because that's the only thing I got. And from, you know, when I left, I was really depressed about losing everything, and my parents were yakking at me. See what I told you? You can't, you wanting to do all that stuff, and look, you can lose everything. Well, I did.
In how many years were you throwing events from the first event?
Well, I can't tell you how many years. It was quite a while, actually.
It's probably pushing 10 years, don't you think?
Oh, yeah. For
Yeah,
sure.
and so what we're looking at is a cultural phenomena, kind of rebirthing of some old consciousness, and you putting your life and limb and your land and your family down on the line, because there's a few things not everybody understands, but there's a permit process in Oregon that allows a citizen to have an event as long as they take care of everybody with the medical and all the important stuff. And
Right.
so you put your personal family on the line to host that event. And the focus, I know you had more than one event for the community, but one of the long-term focuses was the hemp festivals. And a lot of people were exposed to the first time to two things. And one of it was the awareness of your legal status as a citizen and what is the law. And the law isn't just for lawyers. And your group, to me, when I came to Oregon, represented, there were some lawyers involved, but a lot of it was just citizens that were taking the law into their understanding and then sharing that with each other. And so this is the first thing I was exposed to, where we live in a culture where people are afraid of the law, they're afraid of math, they're afraid of a lot of things they should have an understanding and be taught in school. So here I am, a grown-up individual, did not learn this in high school or college. I'm learning it in your field, in Oregon. And then the second thing is people taking responsibility for their family. That's why you invited us all there. And then we got an education on different ways of being, everyone camping out together, a little bit of the Woodstock Nation, and then exposure to other ways of living your life. And hemp was a big part of that. And hemp represents farming. To me, hemp represents farm products and natural products, which is what I was all about. So I just want you to do a real brief synopsis of what you thought you were doing in the beginning, and then what happened to you just because, you had a little gathering.
I thought I was doing what came natural. I mean, it just didn't make any sense to me, that this thing should be illegal.
Right.
And it's like, well, let's let people know. What did we learn? People should know this. They should know what this plant can do. They should understand the law. And that's pretty much what motivated me. It wasn't about money or anything else. And not only that, we had a lot of fun.
Well, it wasn't the Bill Conde show either. You invited many, many people to share their knowledge, and that's what we were all exposed to. Yeah. The group of friends and the community that you brought together was a very magical thing. And community brings magic. Family and children and all these things together are not a distraction. They're the oldest gatherings. The oldest things that brings us together in the world is our gathering. And so this was, an important part of the progression as I saw it. Coming from the East Coast, I call myself an East Coast refugee. It wasn't really a livable, sustainable life for my children. And so what I found in that field and in this community, especially in Oregon, was many people trying to live life in a better way and or change things in the direction they needed to be. So we call that progressive sometimes, but you paid the price for it. And just go into a little bit of, we took about 10 years to change consciousness and set the foundation. But then, all of a sudden, the powers that be weren't really accepting what you're doing. And so, when you had to leave, you went to Belize. You had roots in Belize at that time?
Yeah, well, I'd met my wife in Belize.
Right.
After I met her, I would go back there for like a month and a half, 2 months out of the year.
Right.
I'd close my lumberyard down.
Right.
And she was very young and I was middle-aged, but that, it was great while we had it,
Well, a more traditional culture, and you step back.
Oh yeah.
You step back from the kind of
way back.
what was going on in this country.
Yes, yeah. Pimento stick and thatched roof. The village that I moved into looked like something out of National Geographic when I first got there. But this is really strange because it ends up that it's one of the largest cocaine transfer points in the world. And the Belize, the second economy there is bigger than the other economy because this stuff, they drop it out of airplanes, they throw it overboard from boats that are being chased, and this stuff is floating in the ocean. And I mean, seriously, it's not these kids come back from fishing, they're poor, and all of a sudden they got this big bag with 30 kilos of cocaine in it, and, cash is flowing all over the place. Now it looks like someplace loaded with Grecian palaces or something, and I'm still living in a pimento stick and thatch roof house, and it's one of the last ones left in the village. But during the course of the years that I've been there, I dream all the time. I dream that it's like a reality. I'm back in my lumber yard again, and I'm in there, and I'm trying to get a hold of some old people, and I need some lumber, and it's like, wow, I'm there, and it's so real. It's so real that I keep finding myself saying, wow, I've been dreaming about this, and then I'm back and I'm doing events, and just the whole thing of what I experienced here in Oregon is so implanted in me that I can't shake it. I couldn't go down there and forget about the whole thing. I have fought over and over and over again with the government of Belize down there. I've been in jail in Belize, and believe me, jail in the United States is like the Hilton when they're not kidding. I mean, you get locked up in a 10-foot by 10-foot cell with 6 other guys on a slippery, slimy floor and a bucket full of shit over in the corner, and that's it. Nothing to sit on, nothing to lay on, nothing. I mean, it's rough. I've seen the inside of it. I only saw it for a very short period of time because I got some good friends down there. But it's the dream of something that's not finished, something that was cut short and taken away from me. And I've wanted to return to it for years and years and years, and that's what drives me now.
Well, this is the thing, see, you're trying to make change, and it's bigger than you. And you set the foundation for a lot of things. And I just want to go over what happened after you left a little bit, Bill, because you gave us a place to start, and you gave me a place to meet. I met Jack Herer on your land. And Jack Herer the Terror, was one of the most bombastic, loud, true men I ever met in my life. And when I showed up to these events and I showed up to the Northwest, you mentioned your history with lumber. Well, the Redwood Summer Movement had just happened, and kids all over the country were starting to realize that we have to save our resources, and all these things converge. And that's the bigger picture of what was happening when we all came together. And so some of us were left with the task of, just trying to survive and figuring out where our next meal was and our next event. And my wife and I and my family started a hemp business in 1990, which is somewhere right in the middle of this. And many, many people in the Northwest and all over the country started small little boutique businesses because most of what we had was imported. And you guys represented a very large scale concept where, since you're in the lumber business, you're thinking about building materials. And, that would have a huge impact on society in many different ways, including carbon sequestration, which has been a tremendous, there's a tremendous growth in the awareness that we have to take care of the air and the land and the water and our children. And so, in the meantime, what do? We're importing hemp seed, or we're importing hemp oil. And so, as you know now, but I'm kind of giving you an update because I know you haven't been here that much, but I credit you with helping me get started, and so do a lot of people. And as I said, what you were presenting was a vision that met in many, many directions, and it was many people's tasks, to take up their different personal history or, whatever they liked. Some people liked food. It's one of our specialties was food, and we worked with the oil ahead of a lot of people because we realized that, fabric was good, but there's many other things you could do. And then nutrition was very important. And, not to be cliche, this plant just really does so much. And, there's so many things you could do with it and affect people. So we're trying to, get people to be educated as much as support ourselves. And, eventually there were thousands of different little things and big things in hemp. And, as you left, we were able to get some fairly high quality clothes in the field at your event. And that was in a short period of time where we start with fiber and rope. And most people first saw twine. And I remember you had the first shirts that I ever saw that were farmers' shirts. And we start with importing these single things. And then we start working on raw materials and importing fabrics and making them into clothes. And everyone gets a education on economics and, business. And some people put a lot of money into it, and a lot of people lost money because the consciousness wasn't there, but the price point was really hard to work with. And, long story short, but some people survived, and a lot of people did get an education. And as I see it, since the food and the medicinal part of the plant are something people really needed before they could even understand macroeconomics and understand how you could have a huge impact, we heal ourselves. And this gets entwined with the medical marijuana movement. And people that were trying to educate about medical marijuana were also part of these events on your property. And this is where I started getting my first education on those type of legal issues. And it seems to me that somewhere in there, the medical marijuana jumps ahead, because if they weren't going to legalize hemp and we weren't going to be able to grow it, we're not going to be able to really, match an economic, kind of perspective that is going to be acceptable to, whether it's for investment or to buy the product. So medical marijuana all of a sudden becomes legal. And then I think it's a pretty natural evolution that as people tried to establish that as a medicinal reality, as a community resource, and also as an economic reality, that hemp legalization starts getting back on the table. And all of a sudden people aren't so afraid when they understand that it's healing their grandmother and it's healing their child. And this is, as I see, what really kicked the whole next wave open, is when they realized that my grandma and my little baby can be affected by this plant. Then all of a sudden people are less and less afraid, and hemp sounds like a very benign substance to talk about. And then the thing that was focused on, the next wave, becomes CBD, because once people were focused on medicinal marijuana, growing CBD by volume on acreage, you can get quite a bit out of a couple acres, whereas industrial hemp is going to lead you to networking at an industrial level, large scale, with farmers that are growing thousands of acres. And there's a lot of money that has to come into that, and a lot of education. So medical marijuana, as I see it, led to CBD being a main thrust of why states started legalizing hemp. So full circle, I see that now we have a lot of these realities established across the country, and states are opening up hemp and medical marijuana and legalization, so-called, of marijuana. And it's an excellent time for you to come back. And a lot of the money that is behind this modern evolution of the hemp movement and the marijuana movement is partially distorting the scale and the access. So, but on the other hand, we've also been growing hemp here for 5, pushing 6 years, and on different parts of the country, some of the backbone states of real large-scale agriculture, we have the attention of those people. Mm-hmm. And so industrial hemp is the next wave. CBD has, really had a major impact in people's health and consciousness. And now we have the door opening up for the understanding of raw materials, whether it's building materials and other things we can do with the fiber. And we have to upgrade. We have to organize as a community and invest. And that's all education still at this point for people to figure out how to become part of this. So I want to say that I'm really happy to see you come back, and that your event has a chance to really maintain some of the community energy, the community consciousness that this started with. And it's all become a very large, multi-million, billion-dollar business, but the backbone was the community, and it still is. And so we want to see these communities evolve, and you coming back to host your event is very important at this time. So I'd like you to talk about that a little bit, about how you came to come back right now, and what your vision is for the event in the future.
Well, I want to say this one thing, because you speak of the enormity of the thing. And when I came back here just a few weeks ago, I mean, our dreams realized. I mean, it's beyond anything You know, I had no idea. None of us, I think, had any idea as to what was going to transpire over the next, you know, couple of decades. And it's like, wow. You know, we used to run around with a little bag and hiding it and stuff. And I go around and people get rooms. They get piles and piles and piles of marijuana all over the place. And oh, by the way, hemp and marijuana are the same tree. I'm sorry, but we allowed a fallacy to go on because we wanted to get a door open. People think that hemp and marijuana are not, it's the same thing. It's cannabis sativa L. It's just one has been bred for different purposes, okay? And another thing that when I see this, I'm like, wow, this is really wonderful. But I also believe that because CBD has become such a big thing, that it's a bubble that's going to burst. And like you said, there's some people who have lost a lot. Everybody's coming together and trying to make this thing do. But it's not just about medicine. Medicine is wonderful. It's exactly backwards. You made me realize it's exactly backwards. They used to tell me, you're trying to get hemp legalized because you really want to see marijuana legalized. And I tell them, well, yeah, that's part of the whole thing. But what you said is that we actually got the marijuana legalized, which allowed the hemp to be legalized, which was backwards what they were saying. But what I want to say is that if you take a look at what we use in life, and you just look around this room, you got all kinds of stuff around here. We use silica. That's all the windows, that's stuff on the walls, that's, you know, the bricks and everything. We use silica. We use metals. And we use fiber. And we use oil. And almost everything that we got is in those 4 raw material groups. Cannabis is fiber and oil. How huge is that? What type of an effect are you going to have on wanting to save the environment? You know, we're not going to save the planet anyway. The planet's going to exist no matter what we do. We can blow ourselves right out of the whole sequence and kill everything, but this planet in a few million years will take everything in, it'll swallow it, and it'll burp out another whole bunch of stuff. So those 4 raw material groups, that's what really sets me off, is knowing that fiber and oil, and looking at everything that's made out of fiber and oil, your cabinets over there, you know, all these paper products and stuff, this table, you know, these things here, and oil, man, all your plastics and all those different things, anything that's made out of a tree or cotton or any of those fibers or the oil. Now, that's where that's what I thought of because I was in the lumber business, so that's where it took me. And I look at that, and that's my drive now, is to see us replace those. I know that, you know, the lumber industry, the building materials industry, the largest growing part of the building materials is composites. And that's when you take a tree and you cut it up into a bunch of little pieces and then you glue it back together in a different shape. We can do that with hemp fiber. We can do it better than you do it with tree fiber. So there's a huge impact right there. Paper pulp mills use 1,500 tons of tree fiber every day, all year long. They close for 2 weeks for maintenance. That's it. Now 1,500 tons. I actually did the thing, and I sat down and figured it out. And it'll take about 52 million acres of hemp to curb the cutting of trees for paper. Okay? Now 52 million acres, we can do that. You know, we probably do that in corn. You know, so in the way things are going now, yes, I see it. I see it coming now. Before I could see it, and I used to tell people, one of these days you look out here, you're going to see fields of hemp. And I don't know if I really believe that, but that's what my prayer, that's what my hope was. And I see it now.
Well, you knew it was possible, And now you do see it.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. I want to see the next phase happen. Come on, it's not quite as, I mean, I hear that you can make, thousands and thousands, maybe even I've heard numbers as big as $100,000 an acre. I don't know if that's true, but I've heard numbers that big. But I'm sure you can make a hell of a lot more money off of an acre of CBD than you can off of an acre of corn. There's no doubt about that, and I can understand why people are rushing. It's a gold rush, man. That's a lot of money to be made, and it's natural that people are going to want to do that.
Well, I want to make a quick bridge. It's one of the things people need to do is maintain control of the processing within a given community, and that's why community events are so important. It doesn't mean we don't need large-scale mechanization and industrialization to really, get this to change the whole country and the way we live, which now everyone knows that we're turning from steel to carbon fiber. There's biofuels all over the country. It's not a saturated part of the market yet. But studying natural resources and learning how to develop them without toxic solution processing is part of the next game. So this is organic chemistry. This is many, many different layers of building the knowledge base in the community. And back to your event, a lot of people maybe can't see this, but I think this conversation is as important as the internet. And people have to understand that their communication is very important. And the computer helps us. But we are going to rebuild these structures in our community together. The governments haven't taken a leadership role, and they're almost an inhibiting role. So as I see it, the community is the rebuilding place. This is where this is going to happen. So that's why I'm excited that you're helping bring this together. And in the environment, not too much different from the last shows. This is not a stadium. This is not a concrete, pavilion. We're going to meet out in a field again, aren't we?
Yeah, we are, and it's not just a pot party.
Right.
This is not. Let's have a good time. Let's enjoy ourselves. There's nothing wrong with enjoying yourself, but the focus of this is, people want to know who's the headliner, and I said, well, Hemp is the headliner. Yeah, we're going to have some music, but we're not going to spend a fortune on music. We want to put some good entertainment in there for people. But we want it to be a hemp fest, along with like a hemp convention, a cannabis convention, which is always in buildings with just a bunch of business people walking around. We want those exhibits. We want you to see the things that are there today and what might be coming in the future, We want the CBD and the THC people there. We want to see all that. But then we want to see the guy that's making those concrete blocks, that hempcrete, making those, and some other things. Now we also, so we want to see that. We want to try to present to people what the future might look like. And we want it to be an agriculture show, too, at the same time. We want to bring all that into effect. We want to have some equipment there, like John Deere has some new machinery that they've designed specifically for hemp. It's happening that they're actually, and like you said, yes, we need that. We need the small things. We need the gals making the little bracelets, and we need the seamstresses making us some nice clothes and doing that, But we need the big guys too. Unfortunately, that's the reality of the situation, because mom and pop can't come up with $500 million to build a factory to process the amount of resource that we need to offset the cutting of the trees and the burning of all the fossil fuel. And one of my sons just bought a Tesla, and I've been driving around in an electric car.
Oh, nice.
And I'm blown away.
Yeah.
I'm blown away by what and I say, what? This thing doesn't create any pollution? Wow. Now, we get to where we don't have to burn coal to make electricity, and we get to solar panels and wind. Now, wow. This This is incredible. Now, can we build our houses with hemp fiber instead of with trees? Whoa, what a wonderful world we could live in. It's outrageous. Yes, that's what I want to do. I want to, you know, I'm 76. I'm living on borrowed time probably now. When I was 30, I thought 150 is going to be
Forever,
young.
yeah.
You know, but now I can feel
Yeah.
old age creeping through my body like a rut. I think somebody sang a rock and roll song back in the 70s. And I actually feel pretty good. You know, but this is some unfinished business in my life. And, you know, I don't know how much effect I can have, but I can do the best that I can to bring about as much effect if I have a little tiny piece of it, you know. I could never tie Jack Harris' shoes, man. You know, I love that man. I really love that man. I respect what he did. He gave his life completely. I could never give that much of myself over. I'm too selfish for that. But I really, truly want to try to finish. I know I'll never finish it, but I mean, within myself, I have to still have something, unfinished business in my life. That this is part of it. That hemp is just, you know, I'm surprised I don't have green fingernails or something, man. I haven't grown roots into the ground. Because hemp is just, it's an obsession. I promised myself I wasn't going to have anything to do with it because it ruined my whole life. Took everything I ever worked for away because of the legality. But I went down there and I landed on my feet and I can't help myself. I'm right back in the middle of it in Belize.
Well, and you raised a family.
Yeah, I had to do it. I raised my boys by myself, you know.
And that's the biggest job in the world, really.
Oh, I've like my other business, it's not complete.
Right, it's ever
My
going.
kids didn't get a good education, you know. The plan was to have my place in Belize and have my place up here. And I was going to bring my family back and forth and give them the best of both worlds. Instead, we end up living in a third world country. But, you know, I got coconut trees, I got avocado trees, I got plantain, bananas. I mean, God, I've got all this fruit and stuff growing in my yard, and I don't have to do anything because I'm terrible with plants. Anything I try to grow dies. I'm a businessman, and I'm a hemp activist. That's my shtick, you know. But all this stuff down there, that place is so fertile, you wouldn't believe it. You cut a branch off a tree and stick it in the ground, come back later, you got a big damn tree. I mean, it's fertile down there. Stuff grows. It's beautiful.
Well, I'm a big proponent of organic agriculture, and that's a big part of this whole vision for me is, you know, natural healing and organic. The earth in its natural state is abundant. That's how we all got here.
Yeah, it's true.
So, as we go forth into the future, you have some other ideas you were telling me about as far as what you could do to help and get the message out and keep the story going.
Well, we're going to do this event, you know, what I'm trying to do in Belize is create a cooperative, a hemp cooperative, so that, yes, I tell them, come on, go ahead, and I'm not trying to be boastful or anything, but I have kept up the fight down in Belize, you know, and yes, it's cost me dearly again. Yes, I've been thrown in jail down there, and I've had to, but I got the first and only permits to import hemp products into Belize. Nobody else has been able to do it. Nobody else wanted to do it, I guess, or they would have gotten it done, but I had to fight tooth and toenail, you know, hemp? No, you're not bringing that stuff into this country. I mean, everywhere I went, they said, no, no, no. And then people started going, well, if you can get that guy to sign off, get them to sign off, get these other people to. So one by one, I picked them off and reasoned with them, and I got the forestry department to go through the CITES convention and deal with the health department and with the police agricultural health authority and with the police and and the labs had brought stuff in, had them test it and everything. And it took me several months before they allowed me to bring it in. And now I've built this little business up down there. It's not much, but it's lasting. It's holding. It's growing a little bit, and I've exposed people to hemp down there, and I even helped change the hearts and minds of the police and the attorney general and all those people down there. And we now have hemp has been legalized. A lot of controls on it, though. A lot of controls.
Well, it's amazing how many toxic chemicals you can buy in a store, but we're going to be afraid of a plant still.
Right. Well, for an example, man, my friend Michael Patrick Moore and I we got our first sponsor for the show, and he gave us a check for $2,000 to help us get our permit paid for. So we're looking to put that $2,000 into the bank.
Right.
And
Good luck, buddy.
We're the World Hemp Festival.
Welcome to America.
Hemp. Yeah, right. Nobody wants our money.
Yeah.
I mean, we go through this whole process at the bank the other day and fill out all the papers. We got the check there. We're ready to sign the check off to the lady. We took a name of a company. We call ourselves High Five Productions, LLC. And so, because we're trying to hide the name. And we go in there, we're trying to give the lady the money. We come right to the end of the whole process. And she says, does your business have anything to do with marijuana or hemp? I mean, right out of the blue. Last question. Did she ask us, do you guys have a cartel? Are you importing hard drugs? Are you killing people? Are you raping people? Are you robbing banks? No. None of that was asked. What'd they ask us? Do you have anything to do with hemp or marijuana? I go, my God. In some ways a lot has changed, but in some ways, man, that's still pretty unusual.
Well, I want to touch on a point you just made, that the truth is, without someone engaging at different levels in the court system or in the government system, there's so much stagnation, things will not change. You guys inspired me. We had a direct bearing on the law here. We were one of the 2 people that testified as a farmer. I just testified as this grandson of immigrant farmers wanting to get back, the farm and the family farm. And everyone else is a business that testified in the industrial hemp bill in Oregon. And then we helped rewrite the rules when they pulled medibles for medical marijuana. A certain group, a small group that were involved with the Citizen Advisory Board, and that was headed by Todd Delato at the time, one of the first hempsters in America. As you know, Todd, and we all started here at the same time, basically. And so we wrote up a set of rules that we would accept as food people, because they were really just concerned with safety. And they accepted what we laid out as a document, just about word for word, and that became the rules. And so in many cases, they need us to say our piece.
It's true. It's true. There won't be any change unless there is a change.
And this is important that people hear this story, and it's important that you did what you did. And that's part of why this gathering is so important, because people gathering strength from each other and hearing each other's stories is going to inspire more people to step forward and participate, and that's what we really need.
Well, let's hope it works.
Well, it has been working, and that's why we're here. So I want to thank you for everything you ever done and everything you did for me and my family, and continue to do. And thanks for still wanting to participate and coming back and giving us a nice gathering again, Bill.
Our dreams realized.
Yes.
Yes, it is.
Together.
Yeah.
Like the Beatles said, we'll get by with a little help from our friends.
Yeah, isn't that the truth? Stand up for your rights.
And stand, yeah.
Yeah. It's all part of it, man.
It is.
What if Bob Marley could see what's going on today?
Yeah, well, Jamaica is one of the new new grounds for hemp farming, and I'm trying to help with that myself.
Yeah, well, we can get off crop after crop down there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
it's going to become an international movement, and where we're at now is more than ever. It's an environmental movement.
Mm-hmm.
You can't have an economy without the environment, and so it all goes together, and it's all part of stewardship, and it's all part of being an adult, and it's all part of taking care of your community.
Hemp, hemp, hooray.
Hemp, hemp, hooray. Thanks, Jack.
Excellent, guys. Excellent.
Was it really?
Yes, there wasn't one. I didn't see no flaws in there at all.
I feel honored to have been here too.
I do too, and back to the, I'm going to leave this on just for a second here. When the Hemp Bill 676 came out, right, David Sieber came to me in March and says, I need you to make a CD, DVD that would, so David Sieber's, his squeaky voice, okay, is 12 minutes of it, but then we did a thing that not mentioned CBD or THC in this CD that I made. We made 90 to 120 copies and sent it to the state senate. A month later, they voted 40-something to 20-something to legalize the growing of industrial hemp. Then it went through some subcommittees. Then they went to the state house and they voted the same way. Within 5 months, it was on Kulingowski's desk, and he signed the bill in August of 2009 to legalize the growing of industrial hemp. You know what happened? They sent it to the Department of Agriculture to go over this whole thing. 6 years later, the Department of Agriculture came up with a 15-page document on page 12 how much money they get when they come out and inspect your property. That's all they did. They didn't know jack squat. And I'm trying to be polite. Okay. Anyway, that's my claim to fame, and I don't brag about it too much, except for the fact that it had to come out.
Yeah, every little part made
some of
this
the
happen.
politicians, Floyd Przansky and Phil Barnes, they had a meeting about the next 2 or 3 weeks after that bill was signed at the Hilton, and I was there, and some of these politicians were coming in and go, you guys got everybody on the same page. Because we showed them products that were made by the state of Washington.
Right.
In 1996 or 4 of hemp fibers and this and fiberboard and all kinds of, we showed that. And told them all, and I had a computer talking, telling an introduction to them. My computer, I didn't want to use my voice, but I ended up using my voice to explain some of the little PowerPoint pages that came up. But you know what? I only had 3-4 weeks to get this thing done. We got it done, it went up, and I'm still blown away that we're sitting here now with industrial hemp legalized, and now the CBD and the medical marijuana thing. I was kind of involved in that a little bit, long time ago. You mentioned some people like Todd Delato. I was good friends with his brother Acacia, and I had a community media center in Eugene, Oregon, and I got a story I can tell. It's like 1/10 of what you guys got, and I'm so happy that I was a part of it. Period. It's just what a good job, guys.
Yeah.
What a
Awesome.
When they did medical marijuana, before I left, I had my medical marijuana card, right?
Right.
And I was on probation. One of the things I loved to do was to go and just get as high as I could get and have smoke coming off of my clothes and walk into my probation officer, who was this big overweight lady. Of course, I am too. Not a lady, but I'm overweight. And she had a pistol on her side, and she got Jesus on the screen. I got no problem with Jesus either, or guns, but it's just, that's the picture.
Right.
And there she is. She got Jesus on the screen. She got the pistol on her side. And I walk into her office, and I walk through the place there where all the probation guys are sitting waiting for their appointment. And literally, you got smoke coming out of my hair. And I mean, I go through and it's like stinks the whole place up, and it drives her out of her mind that she couldn't shoot me or do something to me,
What?
Oh boy, I love doing that.
I got a really funny story. Like, I don't know why I was trying to deal with the Social Security office that day. I think it's because my wife and I put our names together when we got married, because you could do that in Hawaii legally. But then the Social Security never acknowledged it. So 20 years later, they're still trying to get us to do it. So I'm in the office, and you walk by, there's like a 6'5" guy there sitting like at a student desk.
Oh yeah,
And I'm like, why is he here? And then he stands up to 6'5" with the gun at his side, and I'm like, oh, this is where they deny you benefits. And he said, "Can I help you?" And he stood right in front of me, and I looked up at him and said, "Sir, I'm there to see this lady." And I went over there, and she needed 2 types of ID. And she took my Oregon medical marijuana card as the second type of ID. I said, I was whatever, I just wanted to get it right. I said, "You do see this is an Oregon medical marijuana card, and you're going to accept it as my second ID?" She goes, "Yes."
I said, boy, things have changed.
So this is an enigmatic
Yeah.
situation, and pushing the envelope is how we got here. So
I've only been on the show 1 or 2 times, but Daniel Ernst and me started the first Eugene Cannabis TV show up in the Growers Market.
oh yeah,
Back in like 1998, 99, 2000 or something like that. A long, long time ago. I have the first VHS tape somewhere in my pile of stuff. And
VHS.
one of these days I'm going to find it. But I have all these people that came online and were hosts of the show. You know, there's Ira and Eileen and now Daniel K and all these people and I was back on show 612 explaining a little bit about what I'm saying right now. But you know what? All I was is a camera guy. All I was is the president of community TV. They got all the permissions for them to do that show. And that's my claim to fame there, okay? And it's like, I don't need all this people pat me on the back. You know, I just, once in a while I get to tell people that much.
I feel the same way. I don't mind being in the.
I don't, yeah, I
You know,
don't either.
It's part of the deal, though. You know?
Well, yeah, it's
If
all.
you happen to strike a note, you
Yep.
know, I shied away from it, shied away from it, shied away from it. But I come back here, and people like Rick and some other people that I've been speaking to, when they speak to me and pat me on the back a little bit about the stuff that I didn't even think about, you know, I was just doing it because it was to be done,
Right.
you know.
That's how I feel.
Wow.
It's not about me.
Yeah.
It's really not. You know, who's the headliner? Hemp
Yep.
is the headliner.
Yep.
Man. That's right. But it kind of helps because when they knock the hell out of you, like let me cry a little bit. I got hit pretty hard.
Right.
You know, I worked a long time to build that business, and believe me, that was a good business. If you looked at it, you see I had brand new delivery trucks, brand new forklifts. I got a brand new high-dollar sports car. You know, yeah, I was riding pretty high, man, and everything I was doing was succeeding. And you know, if they would have given me my choice not to get Social Security, I'd have really been a sorry person because I thought I was bulletproof, man. And Social Security has been what I've been living on mostly for the last 19 years or so. But getting to do this event has been difficult, but yet divine in some way or another. You know, we keep talking about it.
Well, you guys have been motor mouthing for 58 minutes and 9 seconds.
Is that right?
It turned out pretty. I'm gonna turn
I
my
almost
camera
made a
off.
sign
I'm
where
gonna turn my camera off now, but
All right.
I almost made a sign that showed